but let's talk about VFS trade of the day. VFS today, and I have to be dead honest with you guys, I did not identify this setup on my own. Actually, a member, his name is Phil Dinero, is the one who brought this setup to my attention. Phil, I don't know if you're on this live stream, brother, but speak up if you're on this live stream. Phil sent me a message in chat today and was like, hey, Mike, take a look at VFS. I wasn't looking at VFS originally off the open. It wasn't one of the main stocks on my watch list. I was focusing on Macy short. I was focusing on Dick's Sporting Goods short. I was looking at NVIDIA. NVIDIA was hitting the new all-time high. We were looking at all these different things in the morning session. Phil brought this to my attention. And why I want to point that out to you is to show you why it is so important for you to trade in a community. Because we only have two eyes. I can't look at 1,000 stocks all at once. I can't. It's not possible. Neither can you. But when you have thousands of people that are educated professionally, because remember, when you join True Trading Group, you learn the same way that I learned working at the fund in New York. You're not learning gimmicks. You're learning real hardcore professional education the way that I learned when I worked at the fund. So Phil sends me the message and says, hey, VFS, check it out. I pull up VFS and I said, guys, this is an absolutely picture perfect chart setup. It's my absolute favorite chart setup. And that setup is something that I have coined the TTG triangle. What the TTG triangle is, for those of you that are experienced traders, if you are familiar with the very common ABCD pattern, the TTG triangle is essentially a very specific variation of an ABCD pattern. It's an ABCD pattern when certain criteria are met. That's the TTG triangle. It is my opinion and my experience over 17 years of doing this. This is the highest probability and the greatest risk reward combination that you can possibly find for a stock. That is why this is my absolute favorite pattern. I want to show you exactly what this pattern is, how to identify it, and then how to trade it. Because we traded it to absolute perfection. The TTG triangle occurs with very specific things happening. First, you need to establish an initial morning high. An initial morning high can be identified when a stock experiences its first clearly defined pullback. It is not the first candle. That is not the initial morning high because the stock opened and then pushed higher. You need a clear and identifiable pullback in order to get the initial morning high. There is your first clear and identifiable pullback, which then labels this as your initial morning high. So here is your initial morning high. The stock then breaks through the initial morning high with the heaviest volume of the entire day. The heaviest volume of the day is a crucial component. You should be writing this down if you are not a member. This is going to make you money in the future. This is the pattern and setup that I look for every day. It's the pattern setup that I teach members in True Trading Group to identify. It's a pattern that we trade on a regular basis that makes us the most amount of money. Therefore, you should know it as well. And I call these things out for you guys live inside of chat, obviously on a daily basis. So when you break through the initial morning high with the heaviest volume of the day, you have a very high probability of that previous high starting to then act as a level of support. The heaviest volume of the day is a key component of that. The heavier the volume when you break that high, the greater the chance that level acts as support. So you can see after we broke through the high, you see the huge increase in volume, right? Now you look for a pullback. You look for a pullback back into that zone. You look for a pullback back into this zone because we know that what used to just be resistance, now we're going to look for that to be support. It's not enough for you to just rely on the initial morning high. Look for other indicators that line up at the initial morning high to give you added layers of support. What I see this orange line? This orange line is your VWAP indicator. And when I also draw out my Fibonacci retracement levels, you'll also notice the 38.2 Fibonacci level lines up right with your VWAP indicator, which is right in front of that initial morning high. So that's where we became buyers of VFS. I got long right inside of this candle at $23.18. I got long $23.18. Right there's my fill. $23.18. My stop loss is underneath that initial morning high. I'll make the stop loss in red. So the stop loss is red. The entry is here on this box. Here is your support level. Now look at the risk reward on this trade. I'm risking maybe $2. Okay. There is your risk. Okay. That's the risk. $2 from my entry to my stop loss. Then let's see what happens next. That level of support, I'm gonna move this just so we can clear that up. Once you get this controlled pullback, I want you to notice the volume. See how the volume is significantly lighter than the volume on the break through the initial morning high? Guys, I hope you're taking notes. Heavy volume on the break, low volume on the pullback, low volume into that buy zone. The low volume is a sign that the selling pressure is just profit taking rather than aggressive selling pressure. And there's a more higher chance of the trend continuing if the selling pressure is just profit taking rather than aggressive selling. So there's the entry point at 23.18. And then that support level holds and the stock just explodes right through the high of the day. This is a textbook TTG triangle. You'll see the downward lower highs, and this creates the triangle pattern. So those lower highs create the triangle pattern for the TTG triangle. And this entire area right here becomes your buying zone. You buy on the pullback in front of that initial morning high, and you set your stop loss underneath it. If you get heaviest volume through, low volume pullback, take the entry, stop underneath, and then look for the follow through continuation. You break out of the TTG triangle with heaviest volume of the day again, and that high volume tells you that the stock still has momentum. When you see that volume come in again on the breakout of the triangle, you know you can sit back and hold on to your position because you're going to get some follow through. And follow through, boy, did we ever. Look at this massive move on VFS, just boom to the upside, and we just start ripping profits off the table. We took a piece of profit here. We took more profits here. We then took another piece of profit and got out here. I mean, we were just ripping profits off the table as this thing just continued its upward move. And then you got to look at this thing. Are you kidding me? $47. $47. Now let's take a look at this real quick. Let's go back and let's take a look at this real quick. Let's zoom this in. Now, I didn't even catch this last piece. I didn't catch this move, okay? Because my final take profit came off right here. Okay, so right there is my final take profit. So let's not even consider the follow through. I got flat right here. That was my final take profit. Let's go back and look at risk reward. Because remember what I said to you before, risk reward and probability. This is the best combination of those two things that you are going to get when it comes to a chart pattern. There's my risk. There's my reward. Look at the size of my reward versus the size of my risk. And I'll pull them out over here to compare. There's your risk reward. There's your risk reward. Are you kidding me? You hear people tell you that they want 2-to-1 risk reward when you enter trades. Does that look like a 2-to-1 to you? Nope. What does that look like to you? Well, there's 2, there's 3. I like the visuals. I think it's easier for people to really kind of get a sense of the trade. There's 4, there's 5, 6-to-1. 6-to-1. Imagine risking $100 and you get 600. This is the power of the TTG triangle chart setup. This is the stuff that you're going to learn as a member of True Trading Group. How to execute trades like this.